If you have solar panels on your roof, or you're thinking about getting them, there's a number on your bill that matters more than almost anything else. And right now, in states across the country, that number is quietly getting smaller. Not because your panels are producing less power, not because something broke, but because the rules got changed on you, usually without you even noticing until you opened your bill and thought, wait, this doesn't look right. This video is about that exact thing. It's called net metering, and it's the single biggest reason solar panels actually save people money. And it is disappearing, state by state, deal by deal, in a process most homeowners never see coming until it already happened to them. Let's get into it. First, let's make sure we're all on the same page about what net metering actually is, because a lot of people hear the term and just glaze over. Here's the simple version. When your solar panels make more electricity than your house is using right that second, that extra power doesn't just disappear. It goes back out onto the power grid. And under net metering, your utility company gives you a credit for that power, usually at the same price you'd pay if you were buying electricity from them. So let's say during the day your panels make more than you need. That extra energy goes out to the grid, and you get a credit. Then at night, when your panels aren't making anything, you pull power back from the grid, and you use up that credit instead of paying full price. Basically, the grid acts like a giant battery for your house. You don't need to buy an expensive battery system yourself, because the utility company is holding your extra energy for you in the form of a credit until you need it back. This is the thing that makes solar math work for a normal family. Without it, or with a weaker version of it, the number of years it takes for your solar system to pay for itself can literally double. We're talking about the difference between your system paying for itself in 8 years versus 15 or 20 years. That is a massive difference if you're the one who just spent $20,000 or $30,000 putting panels on your roof. So now you understand the concept. Here's the problem. Across the country, utility companies have figured out that net metering is expensive for them. Every time a customer generates their own power and only pays for a credit instead of buying electricity at full price, that's revenue the utility company doesn't get. And utility companies, whatever else you want to say about them, are still companies. They still want to grow. They still answer to investors. And solar customers, in their eyes, are a threat to that growth. So starting a few years ago, and accelerating hard right now in 2026, utility companies all over the US have been going to their state regulators and asking for one thing: cut the credit, make net metering worth less. And in state after state, it's working. Let's talk about the case that basically started all of this, because it's the loudest example and it shows you exactly how this plays out. California. For years, California had one of the best net metering deals in the country. If your panels sent power back to the grid, you got paid close to the full retail price for it, something like 30 cents per kilowatt hour. That's a great deal. That's part of why California became the biggest solar market in the entire country. Then, in December of 2022, California's utility regulator approved something called NEM 3.0. It went into effect in April of 2023, and what it did was brutal. It cut the credit that new solar customers get for sending power back to the grid by around 75 to 80%. That 30 cents a kilowatt hour credit dropped down to somewhere around 5 to 8 cents. Same panels, same sunlight, same energy being sent to the grid, just worth a fraction of what it used to be worth. Now think about what that actually does to a homeowner's decision. If you were planning to install solar because the math worked out to an 8 or 9 year payback, and suddenly that math changes to a 15-year payback, a lot of people are just going to say no thanks. And that's exactly what happened. Solar installations in California dropped somewhere between 60 and 85%, depending on which month or which report you look at, in the year after NM 3.0 went into effect. Over 17,000 solar jobs were lost in the state, according to the California Solar and Storage Association. That's not a small dip. That's 22% of the entire solar workforce in California gone in about a year. Companies shut down. Companies left the state entirely. The industry called it a bloodbath. And honestly, looking at the numbers, that's not an exaggeration. And here's a number that really puts it in perspective. Because of this change, the average California solar customer's electric bill went up by around $63 a month compared to what they would have paid under the old rules. Over the 25-year life of a solar system, that adds up to almost $20,000 in lost savings. $20,000 gone, because a regulator in a meeting somewhere decided to change one number on a tariff sheet. Now here's where it gets even more interesting, because this story didn't just end there. Environmental groups took California's utility regulator to court over this decision. They argued the regulator didn't follow the law properly when they approved NM 3.0. And in August of 2025, California's Supreme Court actually agreed there was a problem and sent the case back down to a lower court to be reconsidered. For a minute, it looked like there might be a real chance NEM 3.0 could get overturned or changed. Then in March of 2026, that same court looked at the case again and upheld NEM 3.0 anyway. Same result, same cut. The homeowners and the environmental groups won a small legal victory, and it changed nothing in practice. That tells you something important, and I want you to really sit with this for a second. Even when the people fighting for solar customers win a round in court, the system tends to find its way back to protecting the utility's position anyway. It's not one bad decision you can just fix. It's a structure that keeps producing the same outcome no matter how many times you challenge it. Now, California is the loud example. Everyone in the solar industry talks about California because it's the biggest market and the drop was so dramatic. But I want to show you a quieter example, one that barely made national news, because I think it actually proves the point even better. Indiana. Back in 2017, Indiana passed a law that let its big utility companies phase out net metering completely for new customers, starting July 1st, 2022. No headlines, no huge public fight that made it outside the state. Just a law passed years in advance, with a deadline set far enough out that most people forgot about it by the time it actually kicked in. When that deadline hit, net metering for new customers in Indiana was basically dead. It got replaced with something called EDG, which stands for Excess Distributed Generation. And the way EDG works is actually worse than what California did. Instead of adding up your energy use and your energy production over a full billing period and giving you a fair credit, Indiana's system measures the power coming into your house and the power going out separately, instant by instant. So the second your panels send a little extra power out, it gets valued at a much lower rate immediately, instead of getting banked against what you'll use later. It's called instantaneous netting, and it cuts the value of your solar credit by around 70 to 80% compared to old school net metering. What happened after that law took effect? Solar installations in Indiana dropped 67% in a single year. And here's the part that made people furious. At the exact same time this was happening, one of Indiana's utility companies filed for a 23% rate increase on regular electricity. So think about the timing here. They cut the incentive for people to make their own power, and then, almost immediately, they asked to charge everyone more for the power they sell. The average electric bill in Indiana has more than doubled since 2004. It's now around $150 a month for a typical household. And solar, which could have helped offset that, got made financially pointless for anyone trying to install it after mid-2022. So now you've got two very different stories. California, loud, national news, huge public fight, court cases, 17,000 jobs lost. And Indiana, quiet, planned years ahead, barely covered outside the state, and just as damaging to the people trying to go solar there. Same playbook, different volume. And this is happening in more places than just these two. Pennsylvania's biggest utility, PPL, has proposed cutting solar credits by 60 to 80%. Vermont has cut its rate 7 years in a row, back to back, every single year. Rhode Island already switched to a lower payout model. Texas never had a statewide requirement for net metering in the first place, so most solar customers there get paid a fraction of the retail rate for whatever they send back, sometimes as low as 3 or 4 cents a kilowatt hour, compared to a retail rate closer to 15 cents. Georgia, South Carolina, Louisiana, and Virginia all have active proceedings right now, in 2026, where regulators are deciding whether to cut solar credits further. This is not a one-time event. This is a pattern that keeps repeating, state after state, on a loop. So here's the real question. Why do utility companies keep pushing so hard for this? What's the actual justification? The argument they use, almost word for word, in every single state, is something called the cost shift. The idea goes like this. Solar customers still use the power grid, they still need it at night and on cloudy days, but because their bill is lower thanks to their solar credits, they're not paying their fair share to maintain that grid. So according to the utility, everyone else, the people without solar, ends up covering those costs instead. It sounds reasonable when you first hear it. Nobody wants to think they're subsidizing their neighbor's rooftop panels. But here's the thing. When independent researchers, not utility companies, not solar companies, but neutral third-party researchers actually looked at the real numbers, they found something completely different. The National Renewable Energy Laboratory, a federal research lab, published a study in August of 2025 looking specifically at this cost shift claim. What they found was that in most states, the actual cost shifted onto non-solar customers because of net metering is less than $1 a month. Less than $1. Not the massive burden utility companies describe in their filings and their ad campaigns. Less than a single dollar. The Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory looked at similar data and came to basically the same conclusion, calling the cost shift argument negligible. And in California specifically, an independent economic analysis found that rooftop solar actually saved all ratepayers, including people without solar, around $1.5 billion in 2024 alone. Because when your neighbor's panels are making power that gets used locally, it reduces the strain on transmission lines. It means the utility doesn't have to build as much expensive new infrastructure. Everyone benefits from that, whether they have solar or not. So if the numbers don't support the cost shift story, why do utility companies keep telling it? I want to show you something that I think answers that question better than any spokesperson ever could. Years ago, a top executive at the Edison Electric Institute, which is basically the biggest lobbying group representing electric utility companies in the entire country, gave a private presentation to a room full of utility CEOs. This wasn't a public statement. This wasn't a press release. This was internal. And one of his slides, talking about the rise of rooftop solar, asked a simple question. How do you grow earnings in this environment? Not, how do we serve customers better? Not, how do we keep the grid fair? How do you grow earnings? That single slide tells you everything you need to know about the real motivation here. In public, the same people talk about protecting fairness and stopping cost shifting. In private, in the room with the people who actually run these companies, the conversation is about protecting revenue growth. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's a real slide from a real meeting, reported on by people who've tracked utility lobbying for years. And this isn't just talk. Since the early 2000s, utility companies and the groups connected to them have spent well over $1 billion on lobbying, political donations, and funding for outside organizations, all aimed at shaping energy policy in their favor. In 2020 alone, utilities paid $1.5 million specifically to nonprofit groups whose job was to campaign against rooftop solar. Think about that. Electric companies paying outside groups whose entire purpose was to turn public opinion and lawmakers against solar panels on people's own homes. So here's where we're at right now in 2026. And this is important because it's not just net metering that changed. Two things happened at almost the exact same time, and together they hit homeowners with a double blow. The first is everything we just talked about, net metering getting cut state by state. The second is that the federal solar tax credit, which used to cover 30% of the cost of installing a solar system, officially ended for homeowners on December 31st, 2025. That credit was supposed to last until 2034 with a slow phase out. Instead, a new law signed in July of 2025 killed it 9 years early, with basically no warning and no transition period. If you install solar in 2026 or later, and you own the system outright, whether you paid cash or financed it, there is no federal tax credit for you anymore. None. So picture the homeowner trying to make this decision right now. The upfront cost of solar just got more expensive because the 30% discount from the government disappeared. And in a lot of states, the ongoing savings from sending power back to the grid just got smaller too, because net metering is worth less than it used to be. Two of the biggest reasons solar used to make financial sense have both been weakened at the same time in the same short window. This is why the phrase quietly disappearing fits so well. It's not one dramatic announcement. It's not a single law that grabs headlines everywhere. It's a slow, steady erosion happening at different speeds in different states through utility filings and regulatory hearings that most people never read until the day they call a solar installer and get a quote that looks completely different from what their neighbor paid 3 years ago. Now, I don't want to leave you thinking there's nothing you can do here, because that's not true. There's still a path forward if you understand how this works. First, some states are still holding the line. New Jersey, Massachusetts, New York, Maryland, and Connecticut all still offer strong, close to full value credits for solar exports. If you live in one of those states, the math still works well. And it works even better because electricity prices in those states tend to be high to begin with. Second, almost every state that changes its net metering rules protects the people who are already signed up under the old rules. This is called grandfathering. If you get your solar system connected before your state cuts the credit, you usually get to keep the old, better rate for 15, 20, sometimes even 30 years, even after new customers get a worse deal. That means timing actually matters here. Getting in before a scheduled cut can lock in years of better savings. Third, battery storage is changing the game for people in states where net metering already got weaker. In California specifically, after NEM 3.0 hit, the number of solar customers adding a battery to their system jumped from around 11% before the change to over 50% afterward. Because when the grid stops paying you well for extra power, the smarter move is to store that extra power yourself and use it later, instead of selling it to the utility for pennies. It's a shift in strategy, not a dead end. And here's one more thing worth knowing. A study from Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory found that homes with owned solar and battery systems are selling for 4 to 7% more than similar homes without them. So even in a weaker net metering environment, some of that value is just moving somewhere else, into the price of the home itself, instead of into your monthly bill. So here's the real takeaway from all of this. Net metering isn't disappearing because solar stopped working, or because the technology got worse, or because it wasn't worth it anymore. It's disappearing because it works so well that it threatens the profit model of an entire industry, and that industry has spent decades and over $1 billion making sure the rules keep bending in its favor. Every time regulators cut a credit, they point to a cost shift argument that independent researchers keep proving is basically fake. And every time, the real number that grows isn't fairness for the average customer, it's revenue for the utility. Knowing this doesn't undo the damage that's already been done in states like California and Indiana. But it does mean you don't have to be caught off guard the way so many homeowners have been. If you understand how this pattern works, where it's already happened, and where it's likely headed next, you can make a decision that actually protects you, instead of finding out the hard way, 3 years from now, that the deal you thought you were getting quietly changed underneath you. If you want to go deeper into any of the state-by-state details, or you want to understand how battery pairing actually works to offset a weaker net metering deal, check the resources linked in the description.